Hey guys, it's Marissa, and today I have a review for you. As you can probably tell, if you have been watching my past few videos, there is something different about my face. I recently got glasses, yesterday actually. I scratched my cornea while wearing my contact lenses, and I now have an infected ulcer on my cornea, and I was told I can't wear contacts for probably a month or more while this heals, and I didn't have glasses, so I had to buy these, and I was half blind, only had a contact in one eye when I purchased these, and when I finally got to put them on, I was kind of like, oh. So that is why I have man goggles on right now. That is what I've taken to calling them, and yes, I have been told that I've looked like a librarian. But back to what this video is supposed to be about. If you guys haven't seen my last video, I will link it down below. It was a book review on Divergent by Veronica Roth, and if you couldn't guess what this video is going to be about, I am going to be reviewing Insurgent by Veronica Roth. Insurgent is the second book in the Divergent series, and I believe there is only one more. I am just warning you guys that there probably will be some spoilers in this, probably more so about Divergent and the ending, because this book is obviously the sequel. So just beware of that while watching this. So Insurgent picks up exactly where Divergent left off. The whole gang of people, Triss, For, Peter, Marcus, and Caleb, who narrowly escaped the Erudite and escaped the Dauntless Traders, are now on their way to Amity. And as you can expect, as any kind of aftermath of war would be, it is complete chaos, and that completely shows through in this book. This book is so chaotic and so confusing to read that I was kind of like, wow, that was really disappointing. It's not that the plot was bad, or that I just didn't like the book. It was just that some of the things that happened were just kind of like, ugh. What ends up happening in this book is Triss, who is now emotionally scarred from seeing her parents die and has some problems with guns and firing them after she has shot her best friend and killed him, is now going from faction to faction with all of the people who have escaped with her in hopes of just trying to figure out how to stay alive and how to end this. So basically, even though it was really interesting to go from faction to faction and see how other factions not only dressed, but how they behave differently and how differently they really truly are, it was really confusing. They would go to one faction, and then go to the next, and then go back to the other faction, and then go to a different one, but then go back, and it just kind of got really confusing for me. In this book also, the relationship between For and Triss gets very strained. Now that Triss has all these repercussions that she's dealing with from the previous book, she is now kind of afraid to talk to Tobias about some of these problems. Tobias doesn't know that she has killed Will, and she isn't really talking to him about it, which causes major problems in their relationship. There is another thing that is brought up that puts a very hard strain on their relationship, and Triss has now gone into the mode where she doesn't care about herself and just cares about saving other people, and doesn't care if she gets hurt in the process, which, again, puts a huge strain on their relationship. In fact, I am going to say that they're fighting for about 95% of this book, which really annoyed the crap out of me. And not because their relationship was one of the best parts about the book, because I truly didn't think that, but after a while it just got so monotonous to see that every chapter they were fighting. And it was just kind of annoying, and I could see how some of these arguments kind of pushed the plot forward, but a lot of them I felt we could have just done without it. I also feel like this book, it's about 500 pages, I think it's actually more than 500 pages, I feel like this story could have been told in about 400, probably 350, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that she added, though it was interesting at parts, just didn't need to be there. One of the cool things about this book, just like Divergent though, was that we got to meet a lot of different characters from different factions and see how they worked. But again, another problem was, it was kind of like, we're introduced to all these characters and then they're dying faster than we're meeting new ones. Every time a new character was introduced, another one died. Some of them weren't even around long enough to really get to know the characters, and that was kind of a downer. My number one problem with this book was just how predictable everything in it was. And if you saw my last video, you know how I said pretty much the same thing about Divergent. Divergent was so predictable, and this one is the same exact way. I'm going to try not to spoil anything when I say this, but one of the biggest things about this book is that there is a secret being kept by a character, and Triss wants to figure it out. And it is alluded that this secret has to do with what is outside of their city and what is outside of the factions. Maybe it wasn't obvious to everybody else, and maybe it was just obvious to me, but I knew exactly where they were going with pretty much this entire book from, I'm going to say, the 3rd or 4th chapter, and I completely called it. There were other surprises in this book, like these main things that were supposed to be like very big secrets and very big surprises and twists that weren't surprises, twists, or secrets by the time I got to the end of the book. They were just kind of like, oh, I knew that was going to happen, so I guess that was satisfying, because I was right. But there wasn't anything that made me read and go, no fucking way. Everything in this book was just kind of meh. The one promising thing about this book is that the way they left it off at the end, it kind of makes me think that the 3rd book is going to be the best out of the series, and there are a lot of questions raised at the end of this book that I feel like they will answer in the last one, so I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm definitely going to buy the next book in the series, and I am going to rate this book at a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was a nice read, I'm glad that I read it, but it didn't really do anything for me, and it was just too monotonous, too confusing, repetitive, and way too predictable for my taste. If you like my review, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, Curious Case of Me. I will post, as I said before, my last video in the doobly-doo. I will also post down there the link to my Tumblr, so if you guys want to follow me on that and get constant updates about what is going on in my life and pictures that I think are nice and shit I think is funny. So, hopefully, I will see you next week.